Hi, Brittany. Thank you so much for joining me this podcast episode. Really appreciate it. How are you today?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, the pleasure is mine, and super excited to learn more about you, your journey, like how you started your business and career you have right now. So I'd love to know what everything started from early on, like before you choosing your career as a business or entrepreneurship. Is that what you always wanted to do with your life, or like you had like a different plans? You would become someone else. Like a lot of children has their dream, like I want to be astronaut, I want to be pilot, I want to be someone doctor, engineer, something. What was your childhood dream? Who you want to be?
Yeah, my dream was always to be a writer. Like I wanted to be probably a like a novelist at first. I thought I was going to be like the youngest novelist, like writer. So I never finished that novel, but I am a writer though. So
Yeah, but at least you're writing. That's the most important
yes.
part, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Then what actually happened? Like, did you go in the corporate world for a time being, like after you finishing school, college?
So I graduated in 2010 with an English degree, which was not an ideal time to graduate with like with anything, a 4-year degree or otherwise, and be on the, lookout for a job
Yeah.
considering the recession that was happening at the time. Um, so I was just like looking for any job, preferably in writing. I didn't find that right away. So I landed in higher ed. So I worked as like an office manager for a couple years, and then I was in the registrar's office. But during that time, I was still like, oh, I really want to be a writer. So I kept kind of pursuing that on the side and landed a couple of freelance gigs a few years after I graduated, which was really great for me, for my experience. They did not pay well. So I still had to work my regular job while I freelanced, to gain some experience, and
Yeah,
just went from
interesting.
there.
How did you come up with the idea of like being an entrepreneur and starting your business, like which one you have right now? Did you get inspiration from someone else, or like you had that from yourself?
Yeah, so I started, like I said, I my exposure to like writing professionally was as a freelancer. And then as I gained experience in that, I moved into an in-house content creator role where I was like copywriting and stuff. And then I worked at an agency for a year. And during that whole time, it was like I just felt like it was kind of building towards something, and I wasn't it's not like that whole time I was planning to become an entrepreneur, but it just, when I was working at the agency, it was like, okay, so I'm wearing all of these hats. I'm a writer. I'm also, communicating with and managing this client relationship. I'm doing some strategy work. I've done in other roles, social media and like copywriting. I could bring that in, and like, why am I working for someone else doing this? I could do this for myself and kind of be like a mini agency.
Mm.
And it felt like at the time, especially, like being able to choose my own clients and
Yeah,
be able to have a really good relationship with the clients that I chose. And then they would get to know me as, as their consultant, and not like feeling like they're overpaying for this huge agency experience. And then really they're still only getting me. um, so yeah, that's kind of how I landed in the entrepreneurial world.
yeah, that's great. So when you started your business and from now, how much difference do you see on yourself, like in the growth wise? Like, is this things change? Like you grown yourself as an entrepreneur, you see?
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yes, everything has changed in a good way. I have, just from a personal fulfillment perspective, I am so much happier because I have control over my life. And the people that I interact with are really great. My clients are great. I have a community of other writers and consultants that I like interact with on a daily basis. They're like my coworkers, um, even though we don't work together really. And then from like a growth perspective, I'm learning so many new skills, not just on the business side of like I'm doing all my own bookkeeping, my own marketing. Like I'm a marketer, but now I have to market for myself and do sales and,
Yeah,
pitching and all that stuff. But then I'm also able to learn new skills like doing Google search ads or something, which as like an in-house content marketer, you don't really get to expand into those other fields
yeah.
because that's someone else's department. But I can do that now. So
Yeah, it's like a growth, isn't it? Like the more you do, like a more you educate yourself like a certain things as a small business owners, like we have to learn everything from payroll,
Mhm.
from marketing, sales, negotiation, also like being a leader as well, like you probably have
Yes.
one or two team members, you have to be a leader on themselves like a day-to-day task. But when
Mhm.
you're starting out like a beginning of like your career, like a first year of business, walk me through how is it felt like obviously you have to make a different kind of shift, like you new to like what you're actually doing and like taking a full leap, like you don't know where's the client's going to come from. So you jump on the unknown, on the fear place, like you don't know what's the next payment going to come from. How
Mhm.
did you dealt with that in a mindset wise?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I chose to go out on my own right around the time that my oldest son went to kindergarten. So there was a whole lot of things happening in my personal life and in my professional life. And it just felt like it was the right time for me. But I don't know, the fear thing, everything just came together. Like I was initially afraid of that thing that you're talking about, um, like not having enough business,
Yeah.
not getting enough clients. But right before I went on vacation, I was kind of in talks with one of my friends slash freelance clients. And she asked me if I would be willing to like do more for the company that she was working for. And I was
Mm.
like, yeah, that's actually perfect timing. I want to go out on my own. Like, let's do this. So I managed to sign on with this client with like a retainer.
Right.
Went on vacation, sent my kids to kindergarten. So like daycare expenses went way down for me. Got this retainer client. The next week after that, got another client from my own like family network that also wanted me to come on like with a retainer. And so like all of those things. So now I have a few clients that have me on retainer, and that's able to kind of that sustains me.
Yeah.
And then any additional freelance work I do is just kind of gravy on top. But all of my clients that I've gotten so far are all word of mouth. Like I
Yeah.
don't really advertise. They're just people that know me, that know what I do, or happy clients that pass my name on to someone else.
Mm.
So
Yeah,
it
interesting.
was really scary before I started, but now that
Mm.
it's going, it's like, okay, it's just working.
I know with me, like the first 2 years was really, really tough with when I started my marketing agency. It just 1 month is fine. The next month you don't know what's the next thing come from.
Mhm.
And especially in the UK, like where I'm from, the town, I try to work on my local market, and the
Mhm.
local market didn't actually help me. It's not about the trust, it's more about like they don't want to pay. They think it's an expense rather than it's an investment for them. And I wasted my time, I'll say, about first couple of years, like trying to convince this market isn't for me. But right now, like
Mhm.
when I'm charging $3,000, $5,000 a month, it doesn't actually get that much objection when I used to charge $300 a month, and it was
Mhm.
really, really tough. And
Mhm.
yeah, it's an unknown place as well. Like you don't know like how long you can survive on that kind of situation.
Mhm.
So every day is feel like you need to quit because you have
Mhm.
to pay your mortgage, you have to pay your bills and things like that. It's
Mhm.
always piling up. So during that time, like obviously probably have like a certain moments like you feel like quitting, probably not because of the financially, probably like things not going as you planned, or like achieving the success enough,
Mhm.
or like you have a doubt like how we're going to handle the success. A lot of people do
Mhm.
that. So how do you able to kept on carrying on like going moving forward with your business?
Hmm. You know, I haven't run into yet a moment where I feel like, oh, I can't do this, like I want to quit.
Mm.
But there are times when it's very apparent to me, like I'm on my own.
Yeah.
In the past, you have a boss, you have coworkers, or even people who are working under you. And so there's like you're kind of insulated from some of the successes, but also some of the failures. Like there's someone else taking credit for your work, sure, like your boss is, or whoever up higher up like
Yeah.
gets the praise for your work, but they also insulate you from any failure. So if you mess up, like they're gonna like shield you maybe from some of those consequences. Um, but it's a little scary sometimes to think like okay, it's all on me, the success or failure and everything. Like I get the credit, but I also, it's all on me if something goes wrong. You know, if I advise a client poorly or something happens and this campaign just totally flops, like that's on me.
Yeah.
So that part is challenging to wrap my brain around sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. And do you think like you have made mistakes along the way, like building a business? And if you made mistakes, what would be like a biggest mistake you made, and what would you be doing differently if you have to go back?
Yeah. So that's a good question. There's like small mistakes here and there. Like, how do you do, how do I invoice clients? How do I do contracts? How do I set up a contract? One of my clients who I just like, I adore this client. So nothing personal on them, but they initially asked if I wanted to be part of their like Slack channel, if I wanted an email under their
Right.
domain. And I said yes to this because I didn't know any better. And now that I'm like, oh, that was a bad call. Cause it makes more sense from a business standpoint to have everything flowing into one inbox, which is my business inbox, and not
Yeah.
like having a bunch of separate email accounts. So that's kind of on the smaller scale, which I will just continue to grandfather, like I'll just keep that. But now I know going forward, that's not how I want to do business
Yeah.
because it's not very efficient for me. Um, and then like maybe on a larger scale, I am learning like how to do Google search ads, for example, which is not my area of expertise, but I'm learning how to do it for one of my nonprofit clients. And I did not optimize this campaign correctly, which ended up charging them more per click than it could have. And so that's on me. And I'm, you know, in the process of trying to fix that and trying to like navigate all of the fun Google laws and rules.
Yeah, it's like we all made them kind of small mistakes. And
Mm-hmm.
even though we are still doing it, like in a lot of things, new things comes up, like industries changes, new software comes in, and we're trying to figure things out, and we end up losing some kind of money if things works. Sometimes it doesn't work. So
Mm-hmm.
this is a learning phase, isn't it? But I remember biggest mistake was like I was keep on changing my niche, who was my ideal target market. Like we
Mm-hmm.
couldn't figure that out. And that actually took a lot of time because you're learning one industry, one niche, and then you switch into a new one. So you have to learn again from scratch again. So it takes
Mm-hmm.
like twice as much time. But if you stay for a longer period, like I wouldn't be making much more money, get more success, the size of the business would be double.
Mm-hmm.
But again, when you're starting out something, you don't know like where you're heading to. And I wouldn't say a mistake again because of you get to learn so many things. Is the right niche to focus on? Do you enjoy
Mm-hmm.
with the client? Do you enjoy like working on the same creatives and everything?
Mm-hmm.
And you probably experienced as well, like the kind of books you write. You probably specialize in certain kind of books. You're not writing for everything. You're not writing about ghost or like a horror kind of scene,
Mm-hmm.
or not like romantic. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, everyone is different.
Mm-hmm.
So, what would be like your number one advice if someone is starting out like their business or their probably side hustle, like you started as a freelancer? What would be like a number one advice for anyone who is watching this or listening to this?
Yeah. So if anyone wants to be a writer, this is my advice. You just have to start doing it. And it's hard because, you know, you still have to live. So if you can get that first job as a writer and someone's paying you to write either in the corporate world or, you know, as an editor, and even if you get published, whatever, that's great. But most people it doesn't work out that way. So get your job that just pays the bills and then write in the evenings, write for yourself, start your own blog, you know, learn how to do it, ask your friends and family, volunteer for small businesses and nonprofits. Like seriously, I think one of the biggest challenges for myself and for other, you know, young people now that are just starting out, I think you get this impression that people need to pay you right off the bat for your creative work, and they should, but oftentimes they don't if you don't have experience and if you don't
Yeah,
have a portfolio to show for it. So like just start doing it, do it for free, then charge a little bit, and then you can keep raising your rates until, you know, a few years down the road and you're making good money doing the thing that you love. But you can't get there right away, so you still have to start somewhere. I started when I first started freelancing, I was making $40 per blog article that I wrote, and it was 500 words. I finally whittled it down to like 2 hours a piece. So like $20 an hour wasn't bad.
Yeah.
But you can make more once you have experience. And I think that's the biggest, as a writer, it's like you just have to start doing it. Don't worry about getting paid right away.
Right, interesting. So do you think is there right amount of work there or like a needs for like a writer? Because right now there is AI came along and
Mm-hmm.
we're not using any writer for like our business because we need a lot of marketing and copies. So we're using a lot of AI tools and it just generates all kind of uh, copies and everything. So do you still think like a industry changing because of all the AI coming, or do you think still there is a scope for writers to write continuously?
Yeah, I think that's such a great question. And all of my writer friends were all talking about this and how it's going to impact especially content marketers.
Yeah.
Yeah, the industry is changing. I do not think that the need for writers is going to go away. In fact, I think the need will be for good writers will be even greater because AI is making it so easy to produce all this content. So in order to stand out, businesses that can afford a good writer
Mhm.
are going to pay for it because they want unique, authentic voice and tone. They want, original research. They want to know that it's being done correctly, that the facts are accurate. As like an editor or like a manager of that content, say like your head of content is going to be looking at all of the stuff coming in from AI, right? They're not going to be able to look at every single thing with such a critical eye to be able to fact check it, let alone edit it for like structure and flow and tone. Like, how do you tailor this to this audience? One person is not going to be able to handle that. So sure, AI is going to help content to scale, but you still need someone to like tailor it to specific audiences, to think with empathy, to make sure that the research is done correctly, that it's primary sources, that it's trustworthy, all of those things. But I do think it will be harder for writers to break into the field because all the stuff that I was doing back in like 2015, writing $40 articles, that will be done by AI. And so it will be harder for people to climb the ladder and to get that experience so that they can land like a decent paying writing job.
Yeah. So it's going to help like a good writers to get more high-end jobs rather than a
Mm-hmm.
small project like a blog post and things like that. Probably you're gonna work on writing a book or writing some biography or
Mm-hmm.
like writing content for like a big companies like then email subscriber like yeah, I think that as well. Like a lot of people want the humanly touch on them, like a
Mm-hmm.
writing wise. And AI is like it's pre-written everything from like a different writers, different blog posts, and they capture everything and just mix and match and everything together and makes it like a
Mm-hmm.
proper sentence, word from here, word from there. But actually, if it comes from you as a human, then obviously it's going to come from your own brain, the unique things. Yeah, it's totally
Well,
makes sense. Yeah.
the other thing too is like those generators like chat gpt only has information fed into it from like what 2021 or something, so it's not like recent data. And
Yeah.
all of the good content marketers out there are going to say, oh, if you're going to cite like a fact or something, it has to be more recent than 2021
Yeah.
today, like it needs to be from this year. And I think that's where the good writers and good content marketers and editors and people, like they're going to be focusing on the more original, more like more recent, well-researched stuff. And it will take longer to produce. It'll be more expensive. And you can use AI to help fill in the gaps, to help spin off like an SEO piece and, drive traffic back to
Yeah.
that really great pillar piece. But someone still has to create the really great pillar piece. So,
Yeah, it's so true. There is like I know AI stuff coming and a lot of industry will be disrupted. And at the same time, there is a big scope for like a talent to rise and shine. And there'll be like a leaders. There'll be even though you're using like a AI, still someone needs to be on the company for like a head of an organization, like a given like a different kind of idea. Even though ChatGPT, you need to use certain words So in order to they create like a content for you, so you have to come up with the kind of title you need. So there
Yes.
is some creativity in there as well.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So Brittany, we are coming to the end of this podcast. It's been a great pleasure having you on the show, and it's a great conversation. So those who's listening, if anyone wants to learn more about your work or like find you, where's the best place to reach out?
Yeah, so my company name is Stingray Writing. So my website is stingraywriting.com. And I'm Brittany Wren. I'm the owner. So that's me.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. So thanks for coming today and giving us a your valuable time. And yeah, I wish you best of luck with your business and your personal life. I hope you have a wonderful day ahead.
Thank you so much for having me. Have a good one.
Yeah, most welcome. Thank you. That's a wrap, guys. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast episode. I hope you got some value from it and enjoyed the conversation. If anyone wants to learn more about Brittany, go visit her website or reach out to her. Until then, I'll talk to you in the next episode. Take care.